All right. Welcome to the Tiger Minor League Report recap. We didn't do it yesterday because we got a little bit sidetracked with everything, and we're doing it today. But before we get all started, Chris Brown is live on some lake somewhere nearby. And go ahead, Chris.
Well, you know how I'm always talking about Adam Eaton as my neighbor?
Yeah.
He lives right over here behind those trees. I'm on what's Crooked Lake. Wait, I'm probably doxing him. Never mind. So,
don't get him in trouble. Don't let everybody know that. But
yeah, I'm on a lake for a little bit, but I'll pop back in when it's not so wild.
All right. So yeah, thanks,
enjoy
Chris.
Riley Greene.
Enjoy Riley Greene. Yeah, thank you, Chris. And come by later. All right. So yeah, Chris Brown was joining us for a little bit as he was still out at lake with his family, and Trevor was kind enough to hop on and talk about Riley Greene and talk about a lot of interesting things happened in the system last few days. First and foremost, Trevor, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm actually jamming to that song Chris had on in the background there. You could hear it just at the end. It's called Sideways. So I'm over here having a good time. But I appreciate you having me on. Yeah.
Oh, no problem, Trevor. And this is Trevor's now fourth appearance on the pod this year. So it's always nice to have that, especially because we will be doing a draft show coming up on the day of the draft on Sunday. I think it's July 17th, I want to say.
17th, absolutely.
Yep. So there's going to be a lot of prep action coming on over on our website over at Tiger Minor League Report, and of course at Bless You Boys and Prospects Live, where Trevor resides. And so there's plenty of college draft talk beforehand and projections of draft picks and all that stuff. And one of the things about this time of year, Trevor, like yesterday, I watched the Michigan win the Big Ten championship over Rutgers, and it's amazing to me to see a sacrifice bunt or a squeeze play in baseball. You don't see that often anymore in the big leagues.
No, college is just so different, man. I mean, you'd think it would not have as many bunts because they have metal bats and they can just hit the crap out of the ball. But it's such a different game, man. They're doing what they got to do to win. Good for Michigan. Good for all this. I mean, I think there was an exciting game in the ACC tournament too. I mean, college baseball is fun, man. It doesn't get its due credit.
Oh, agreed. And right now, I think it was I watched North Carolina State and Miami or NC. Sorry, let's just say NC State. NC State and Miami a couple of nights ago, and I think who's the freshman that's had like 26 home runs? Tommy
White. White. Tommy Tanks.
Tommy Tanks. Yeah, and there was a lot of that going on in Miami. It was funny because a lot of the Miami pitchers were just like this lanky. They all had a kind of a similar profile. They're all lanky and just kind of throw the ball in there. But it's certainly changed a lot since I watched a lot of college baseball. Back in the night, it was always Miami. It was same schools all the time.
Yeah, it's a lot of. I mean, Vanderbilt is still a powerhouse. There's some guys that pop up though. Of course, Tommy the Tank Engine's been a lot of fun this year. That's what I've started referring to him as. It didn't catch on as much as you'd think, but Tommy White's fun. There's just some fun names all around, and I don't know. I played college ball a few years ago, and we never made the tournament. Granted, it was D3 called Millikan University. Nobody's heard of it, so we wouldn't make the D1 tournament. But still a fun time, and man, it's just a fun atmosphere to watch those games.
Well, thanks, Sean, for the comment over on YouTube. We appreciate that, and so if you want to stick around for Riley Greene's at bat, we're going to stick around and watch some of the Mud Hens baseball. As normally the minor leagues are off today. But this being Memorial Day and all, it's a good day to continue the baseball theme. The Tigers won earlier, by the way, in case you missed it, 7-5. And this is also prevalent because former Mud Hen Cody Clemens was just called up today as Robbie Grossman hits the IL due to a neck injury. And so there's a lot of Trevor, you've been seeing this since day one, since the season began. Everybody wanted Cody Clemens up. He could play multiple positions in the outfield, but talk about his approach to the plate and what he can help Detroit with.
Sure. Yeah. First of all, did you see how Cody Clemens got found out about it? He was in a parking lot of a Home Depot, is how the story goes. It was on Twitter. I can't remember who tweeted exactly, but it was on Twitter. Yeah. He thought that something was wrong. He was in a parking lot of a Home Depot, and that's when he got the call from Lloyd McClendon. And they're like, hey, you're coming up to Detroit. But he was doing something. I think he had all of his stuff with him, and he ended up having just to drive straight up to Detroit. So that's a funny story right there. I'm sure when he'll he'll remember. Yeah, here it is. So Lloyd McClendon called him, said, "Where are you?" He's like, "I'm on the highway." Said, "How far out?" And everything. He found out in a parking lot in Bowling Green, Ohio. You love to see it. Anyway, Cody Clemens. I've always known him to be the what you would describe as a Detroit athlete, and by that I mean he's gritty. He plays hard at every moment of this game. I mean, I remember watching 2 years ago. He's playing second base for West Michigan back when they were single A, and the ball's deep in right field, and he's out here making that play. I mean, it's awesome to watch him play in that way. And I know you want offensively, he's made a lot of strides and become a lot better hitter. So, I me, I haven't watched a ton of AAA this year, so I don't know what his bat has looked like as much this year, but I can tell you that the way he helps this Detroit offense is by hitting the baseball, because the Tigers offense has tried their best, but have not hit the baseball consistently. So if he can do that, he will be a huge help to the offense.
Yeah, I mean, he's a left-handed bat, and one of the things that I do like about him is he does hit for power, and some of the lines on him this year are, in terms of even his versatility on defense. I mean, there was a lot of on his scouting report that was talking about his defense kind of lacks, but I still think he's done a really good job of he's played all over for the Mud Hens this year in terms of how his offense looks. He has 8 home runs, 283 batting average, an OPS of 843. And I know AAA, Trevor, we've talked about this numerous times since Prospects Live. It is kind of hard because with the various balls they use, and like last year, for example, in the last 10-game series, they used I believe it was like a sticky ball that was similar to use in the Japanese leagues. And there's all this variations of everything. But one of the things that does stand out, people will ask about, is walk rate, because his walk rate's low. But I think across the board, whether it's AA or AAA, I can't help but notice that strikeout rates are up. But does that matter the same as it did before? Because I don't know. Like, it just seems like it's a universal pattern across the board, because Major League Baseball strikeout rate keeps creeping up every year.
I think when I look at strikeout rate, I think it just matters in terms of the player more than anything. So we'll use Riley Greene as an example. This is the Riley Greene cast, as you said so eloquently. By the way, I just want to throw this out. This is my 4th time on, and the window for them asking me is getting shorter and shorter. I just got a message today from Roger that said, "Hey, free in 10 minutes." But no, it just matters. So like Riley Greene, he did have high strikeout rates, last year in AAA and all that stuff. That's what everybody points to. And for him, watching him, he has such good hands that it's pitch selection that leads to that strikeout rate for him. And I mean, obviously that isn't a guaranteed fix by any means, but that's a lot easier than just, pitch recognition or even just straight up swing and miss. Some guys just have straight up swing and miss in their game. Carrie Carpenter has a really high strikeout rate, even though he's hitting as many home runs as I think anybody else on that Erie team combined. But he's got a little bit more swing and miss and I think pitch recognition stuff than necessarily Riley Greene does. So I think it matters what kind of strikeout rate it is. Some guys are super passive, and that's why they just find themselves in bad counts, because they're not swinging early. Some guys are super aggressive and just missing the ball. It's hard to do without actually, watching. Like I said, I unfortunately have not seen a lot of Cody Clemens because I don't like to watch AAA a ton. So I can't speak exactly to what has caused his huge strikeout rate, but it doesn't necessarily worry me either way, because what matters is the production that happens when you do make contact. You can strike out. I mean, we see it with Joey Gallo back when he was good. You can strike out 50% of the time if you want, but if the other 50% of the time you're getting hits, doubles, home runs, whatever, and being productive, I mean, it's hard to people always worry about it, but it's hard to really say that you're doing poorly just because you're striking out a lot.
No, you bring up a good point, Trevor, because that's something that always happens too. With people talk about on base percentage and looking at those 2 main statistics about walk rate. And there's a conversation I had with somebody about, well, I mean, if he's a certain age and he's still doing this at a certain time, well, obviously he is who he is. And we'll get to Carrie Carpenter too, because he had a big week, as we'll recap all the week's action, including Colt Keefe's home run call by our good friend of the show, Dan Hasty, as the Whitecaps won in dramatic fashion over one of the best teams in High A and the Dayton Dragons. We'll talk about that a little later. But as Riley Greene is due out after Josh Lester here, as the Mud Hens down in Columbus in Buckeye territory. So it's the Ohio theme continued throughout the last couple of days or so. But you're welcome to leave comments, get questions for the show. We have a mailbag segment that we took questions for yesterday that we're going to release an article on. Chris and I are working on. So if you have more questions for us, just let us know. But yeah, it's, getting back to what you're saying about strikeouts. That's a nice foul there by Josh Lester, keeping that bat alive. But it doesn't, what they do on the, why did I say the B word? Oh. I didn't mean anything by that at all. Wait, what B word?
Statement of fact. Statement of fact. It's Buckeye country. It's Columbus. You can't avoid it.
Yeah. Look, I mean, there's so many jokes you can say about Ohio. They write themselves, but unfortunately, I have some good friends who live down in Ohio, including a friend of the show, Tiger Minor League Tracker Keenan, who actually lives in Columbus. So, and him and I will be heading to Lakeland. I'm going to Lakeland, by the way, Wednesday through Saturday, as we're going to be watching Jackson Jobs start. If it lines up correctly, Trevor, I'll be able to get some live video come Friday. I believe that's when his next start should be. So a lot of TBAs in the minor leagues. But all right, so here's Riley Greene before we get on. We'll get back to the strikeout thing here in a minute. But now here's Riley Greene. And
God, you love to see it.
Yes, here we go. Yeah, it's awesome to see. And Sean, to answer your question, so he has a question here. Does Akil ever make it back this year? Sean, that's a good question. Right now, he's struggling with an injury right now, but at this point right now, and there's a ball you have Meadows coming back right now, Greene, who has looked pretty good so far in just limited time. You want to see when he's going to play out there. I don't think anytime soon. That's just my opinion.
I agree. This is the stuff I've been saying. Look at that. That's Riley Greene's hands right there. I mean, I know he didn't make great contact, but look where that pitch was. He gets a single. I mean, Tobias Myers is not a joke of a pitcher, by the way. That's who's starting here. He's a good pitcher, but look at where that ball was, and he was able to get to it and hit it back up the middle. I love Riley Greene's hands. Do you have? I'll touch on Badu in a second, but were you going to say something about Greene, Raj?
I was just going to say this shows his foot's just fine. I mean, he ran that out. The foot looks fine, so we have that confirmed right there. But go ahead, as you were saying.
Yeah. So Badu, I mean, you got to remember he will make it back, and I kind of talked about this with probably you and Chris and a few others, but not too much publicly. But we got to remember Akil Badu did not play above, was it high A before being a Rule 5 draft pick? So I think he will be back. I think that this is the development time he needs. He was ridiculous last year to start, and he was great. He earned his spot on the Tigers to start this year. But his second half, it just everything seemed to change for him second half last year. And I kind of just saw the things starting to turn. I kind of thought that this would happen where he'd wind up back, he'd get hurt. He might wind up back in the minors or whatever. But I didn't think he'd get hurt. I figured he'd wind up back in the minors. I don't know why I said that, but I think he will. I just think he could use a little more seasoning, a little more development time, because he didn't play competitive baseball for how long. Coming out from high A straight to the majors, it's a hard thing to do. I know Juan Soto made it look easy, but that's Juan Soto. It's a hard thing to do just to go from that level to the majors. So he does still have a ridiculous ceiling, and I think because he had a full year in the majors, we kind of forget that he's still young and still has a ceiling to him. So I think that he could be back. He still could reach it. And hopefully, I mean, personally, I think that he's a long-term fourth outfielder behind what's hopefully going to be a really fun outfield in Detroit in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about the development time. It's one of those things where he's coming off, I believe, was it arm surgery, right? He had
Tommy John
surgery. Yeah, so between that and going to high A and what he did last year was pretty incredible.
And the COVID 2020 season was lost.
Yeah,
it was a year and a half.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at guys, pitchers are always kind of commonly involved with this, but if you think about it as a hitter standpoint, you're not getting live action for almost, in his case, almost two and a half years, something like that, to that effect. But look, and the thing is, we saw the power in spring training, and spring training I know does not mean much, but he started hitting lefties. And and thank you, Blood Riot. I appreciate that. It is game 2 that Clemens will be starting. So thank you, Blood Riot, in the YouTube chat there. But no, again, it's just, I think if you get some more time in the AAA, work things out, get a chance to get some regular at bats, that will go a long way. I think that having a routine is such a key thing to have when you're trying to figure things out. So, and on the hill for the Mud Hens, is that Logan
Tyler
Schumer?
Alexander.
Tyler Alexander. Oh, duh. I forgot about that. Jesus, Pete. No, yeah. There we go. All right, that's okay. I was like, wait a minute. He's coming to sign in and I realized, yeah, I'm an idiot. No, Blood Right, he is pitching down in Lakeland right now, but when he's coming up or anything, there's nothing about that. I know he's throwing some live BP in Lakeland right now. But good to see Tyler Alexander come back here too. And that's a single for Columbus. But also, that's a good question here to ask you, Trevor. Where do you put Tyler Alexander? Do you put Tyler Alexander in the bullpen? I mean, his numbers last year indicate he was better as a starter, but I don't know. I kind of like the rotation the way it is right now. I mean, Brisky today still needs to get that third pitch going, but where do you put Alexander? That's a question here.
I mean, I don't know how advanced I don't think you can use him as a bullpen arm. I just don't know that he's got that kind of stuff that'll play up in those shorter stints. Not every pitcher has. I know that's the saying is, oh yeah, his stuff will just play up, but really it takes a certain kind of pitcher. He's certainly a major leaguer. I almost want him to be like an opener. Just find out who to open for, have him open for Brisky or something. Just go an inning or two and then bring in, Brisky to go for 5 innings or whatever. I think that might maximize what he can do. I can't personally see a world where I want the BABIP god of Tyler Alexander to be in any sort of leverage position out of the bullpen, if that makes sense. Starting, I think it works a lot better just because of, what the outcomes are. But, when you're bringing in a bullpen guy, you want him to strike everybody out, not, give up 6 hits. Does that make sense? I don't mean that negatively about Alexander. Like I really like Alexander. I don't think that it fits in a bullpen role in my mind.
No, that makes sense because it's not like a situation where we saw in West Michigan this year where it would be Dylan Smith starting and then we saw Jack O'Houlihan go afterwards. I mean, that would be kind of it's similar to that way, but those guys in terms of even pitching styles, Alexander's got more of a cut fastball. Houlihan is more, I think, I don't know, like his stuff is a little slower than Alexander, but yeah, and I would agree with Christopher here. His slider and curveball need to develop. You need to develop a third pitch in order to stay in the major leagues. His fastball changeup is fantastic, but after a while, when the reports get out on people, they're going to sit fastball, they're going to sit changeup, and I mean the home runs today were kind of a problem, but overall. Look, for the guy being from the 27th round, there's just one thing I got to say, Trevor, and I did this article yesterday about this is the first time in any of our lives. I mean, I don't know how old everybody is in here, but probably since the mid-70s. And I was talking to Lynn Henning about this earlier. The Tigers have not had this much pitching depth since the 60s. Seriously, there's 12 homegrown pitchers on this team right now. Turnbull is on an injured list, Matt Manning, Casey Mize, you see Tyler Alexander here, Will Vest, and then it's just you got Fado, you got Brisky, you got Wentz, and then there's Alex Lang, there's Jimenez, there's Soto, and it's mind-boggling. They took this long to happen, and so I mean, I'm not trying to be super like one of the things I try to be as realistic as possible about the team. We know about the offensive struggles, but here we are at a minor league podcast, and we're actually talking about pitching depth. What, my God, Trevor.
It's awesome, isn't it? And a lot of it's surprise. Like if you had told me that Bo Brisky was going to come up and be as good as he has been, and we all know how good he has been, all the warts aside, whatever, I would not have believed you this year. I thought Bo Brisky was a major leaguer. We've talked about him a million times, but I would not have believed that he was going to be able to perform like this in the big leagues, just because I thought he needed a little more seasoning with his with his third pitch, all that stuff. If you had told me that Alex Faedo was going to be pitching well in the major leagues, I would have laughed you out of the room or laughed until I passed out. Like I just didn't see it this year, coming off of an injury, coming off of what we saw prior to the injury. It's awesome. And you want to credit the development to a point. I think that was the big thing for Faedo that was going to be different was he's with a different development team than he had been the last time he was really healthy. So, I think they've done a really good job. I think they've started to identify the things that they want. And the arm barn piece that it's not arm barn, the arm factory is what it ended up being called that I wrote for Bless You Boys that you put in the pitching depth article yesterday. That talks a little about what they've identified. They've identified spin rates. They've identified IVB on fastballs, and they want that kind of stuff because you can work with that. IVB is induced vertical break, and it's got a whole. It pretty much it means it can play well up in the zone because it's not. It's pretty much creating ride, right? It's not dropping as you might think it would because of gravity. It's just staying up and almost looks like it might rise. But they've started to look at that stuff, and I first picked up on that. The minor league Rule 5, they gave away, or they didn't protect a guy, and he lost who I was told might be the best guy in the entire minor league Rule 5. And I looked it up. He didn't have the spin rate. He didn't have the IVB. He didn't have anything like that. The two guys they got, Nick Kuzia and I can't remember the other guy's name, maybe Diego Castillo, something like that. But
yeah, I believe it's the
yeah, they did. They had one pitch that was absolutely nasty like that, and Brisky's got it. Wentz has got it. I haven't seen numbers on Fido, but I'm sure he's got it too. So they've started to know what they're looking for because they know what they want to work with. And when you do that, you can maximize what a player is. So you can maximize a player like Brisky, who has that fastball that has good IVB that can play up in the zone. He's got the changeup to play off of it. And he does have decent spin rates on his slider more so than his curveball, if I remember correctly. And you can work with that. You can improve from there. Spin is something you can't teach. That's what I say all the time about Jackson Jobe. He's got ridiculous spin rates. You can't teach that, but you can refine it. And that's what I think the Tigers pitching development has looked for. And I think that's the road that was taken to get here, is just finally finding the people who understand what they want and know what to do with it.
And that's a great point, because that brings up to a guy we saw yesterday pitch in Detroit, in Elvin Rodriguez, who a lot of people were asking why he was out of the 40-man. They looked at his numbers, and it goes beyond a little bit of that because he had a good spin rate. He had a really good spin rate. I believe it was curveball or a slider. I can't remember. And yesterday we saw that in action. He was a quick worker. So, I mean, it was just one of those things where as soon as he keep it score in the press box, I'm just like, crap, he's going so fast. And we saw what he's capable of. I mean, he had to leave the game yesterday, unfortunately, do some cramping. And I know they blame the trainer for that. I don't know who to blame or whatever. That doesn't matter at this point. But the point is, they identified with someone, him, and same thing with Alex Lang, who used to be a starter when he was with the Cubs when he got here. And they identified his two best pitches, and they've maximized it to the point where he is very good out of the bullpen. And you kind of see that a little bit with Joe Jimenez as well, because he's always had a good spin rate on his fastball, but he's always struggled with command and control. But lately, he's just been a guy that's been reliable out of the bullpen. And Tigers development is actually noticing the things, and they are. And then we got a question in the YouTube here we'll answer in a second, but it is something before we went around the minors last year and this year, we were told, some of the pitchers told us, well, they just said go out and pitch our game. Now it's like a specific plan for each pitcher. And that kind of leads to this question here from Swerville. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that. Tigers have come a long way to fix their pitching development, but are still lagging with hitters. Is there any reason to hope for improvement in the hitter development? That's a good question. Well, I see a lot of stuff with Colt Keefe right now. The improvement of Winslow Perez is good, but again, this is a guy who's now spent his fourth season at West Michigan, second season in High A, so it's just maybe an age thing. I don't know. Right now, it's too early to tell, but they have a specific profile they look at. I mean, I still believe that with some of the power numbers, for example, from Gage Workman. But I don't know about you, Trevor, but I still think they have some ways to go with that. There is a process that's going on with it, but the results of it still haven't. I mean, right now above AA, I'm not really sure. I don't see anybody, but that's just me.
I think that's in the works. For a few reasons, you're seeing some guys who are in the system start to take steps forward. And you're starting to see the guys that they want in the lower levels, the type of guys they want. And right now, I mean, I don't want to say it, but it's kind of empty power is what the trend is. So when you get a guy like Isaac Pacheco in the draft, who I don't think is going to be empty power for his whole career, I really believe in his hit tool. But you get him, you get Roberto Campos, Manuel Sequeira. I know some of these guys came in probably before the new dev guys, but this is kind of where their hitting is right now. Ryan Kreidler gets a lot of love. He's pretty much empty power. He's a ton of home runs, and he's going to strike out a lot. Carrie Carpenter, I think, is the best example of where the hitting development is right now. I don't know how much of a role the team played in what he did in the offseason. But when you guys talked to Gabe Alvarez, he said he made changes in the offseason, very tangible changes. I slowed it down and saw as many swings as I could. This is up on Bless You Boys. I did the full write-up, but it looks like his hands are staying back a little longer. He's able to create a little bit more shoulder-hip separation, which it pretty much just means his lower half is pretty well through the swing by the time his upper half launches, and it's almost like a rubber band or a coil where you pull it tight. And when his hands finally go, it gives him a lot of power through the swing zone. So I think that's one thing we talked about. He's much more balanced. His elbows staying in. So when you can make small tweaks like that access a little bit more power in a guy that probably is going to strike out a lot and hit a lot of home runs, I think that's a step forward, right? Because we're making the jokes. At least I guess I was, because I make way too many jokes, but I was making the jokes behind the scenes when they drafted Torkelson, that it's just going to be a throw him out there and hope they don't mess him up too much before he reaches the majors, right? I mean, that's really, that was where the Tigers were at, unfortunately. And I think they've done a good job to kind of go with, Riley Greene is a great example. Riley Greene could have gone way down south, because high school hitters are complete blank slates when they get to pro ball. And with all the talent that Riley Greene had, it still could have gone in a bad way. And right now, I think Riley Greene is a clearly better hitting prospect than Spencer Torkelson. And I've said that a billion times. I love Riley Greene. So it's not there. Like you said, I think they're working on it. I think we're starting to see some more, you're starting to see the trend in hitters, like we see the trend in pitchers of what they want in pitchers. And I'm not as well versed on any data for hitters, so I can't really go look at that. But I think that they just want guys who are going to hit the ball hard, and maybe they can work on approach, recognition, whatever the case may be, to get the rest of it there.
Yeah, and there's one of the things that, if you watch or if you pay attention to a lot of the drafts in the past, the Danny Wirtz in the world, I'm trying to think of the Clee Thomas. There was a lot of college junior, senior bats that really were, some of them didn't really stand out in any way, shape, or form. There was just a lot of upperclassmen. The Tigers didn't really, in the last 10 years at least, didn't really go after any high school hitters with some sort of, outside Nick Castellanos. I mean, you can talk about Castellanos, but he had a lot of pedigree with him. And beyond that, it was been a lot of, like I said, just upperclassmen types. And even when the 2017 draft, for example, has yielded no hitters at all. 2016, or you have to go back to Derek Hill in the 2014 draft, and that took a long time. Of course, there's injuries to that too, but he's still not is he a two-war player? Is he a regular player? That's yet to be seen. But it's good to see that Derek Hill's contributing, but it is a total process and profile, as my buddy Mark would say, because there is kind of aspects to it that Detroit still needs to figure out here. Do you see it a little bit with guys they've picked up, like Zach Short, for example, power, and he does kind of walk a little bit, but it's still, for example, the reason why I'm going to Lakeland is because I want to see what they have in Manuel Sequeira, what they have in Campos. One of our favorite players, we're talking about Benito.
Yes.
Ramirez. Is it Ramirez, or what am I drawing a blank for?
Benito's the last name.
Yeah.
Lazaro Benito, I think it is.
Yeah, Lazaro Benito, yeah. And, Cuban outfielder.
Benitez. Look at us. He's one of our favorite players, and we're getting there.
Yeah. It's a Monday afternoon. Normally we'd be, or Monday evening. Usually you're probably getting to work or whatever it is. But Benitez
is another guy with that really good shoulder hip separation. That's how he gets a lot of his power, despite he's a smaller dude. So you're starting to see if they like that. I mean, that's one way to get some power out of it.
And Bloodright asked in the YouTube chat, is Brandon Davis groomed to be Caneleo's replacement? No, because he doesn't play as much third. He's been playing more of the outfield. Correct me if I'm wrong, Trevor, but I'm pretty sure he played more of the outfield for the Angels versus playing the third base. That's what I remember when they signed him. I was looking at that because he can play multiple positions, but pretty sure that Davis was primarily going to be used as an outfielder.
I know he climbed 3 levels in 1 year. That's I haven't looked a ton into Brendan Davis. I'm pulling it up right now though. He was
He was the minor league player of the year last year for the Angels. He hit over 30 home runs between 3 levels last year, and that says something. But it just sounds like it was a 40-man roster crunch.
He played 53 games at third last year, 37 at short, 17 at second, and then about 30 to 40 in the outfield. And this year he was mostly shortstop with the Angels team. So
Salt Lake, the Bees. Yeah, that's my apologies. I thought it was like maybe it was a couple of seasons ago that he played more third base, but it's just the way the Tigers made it sound like he was going to play more of the outfield. But again, it is nice to have that position versatility. But as far as Caneleo goes, Hinch said this yesterday in the press conference or the pregame talk. He gives the press in the dugout that Caneleo is still highly favored. He's still trying to figure it out, and he had a good game today. He had a good game yesterday off the bench. So I think because of Caneleo's veteran experience, what have you, I think they're going to see what they have there. If Davis comes on fire and then they can make Caneleo tradable, I think a lot of people want Caneleo traded, and I don't know why. There's just some this. I keep seeing that all the time, Trevor. I just feel like some people, led the league last year in doubles, and everybody just kind of writes him off pretty quickly. Like this year, like I don't know. It's just frustrating a little bit.
I think the expectations were too high coming into this year, and I hate to say that. I wanted the Tigers to be really good, but they had an amazing overperforming year last year. So the expectation coming in this year, when you bring in some guys like Javi and Meadows and Ebrod, whatever, I mean, it's just you come in with a huge expectation that the Tigers are going to be fighting for the division at any point in the year. I still think this is a pretty good team. I mean, I know that it sucks because this has been a very long rebuild, but I've talked to a bunch of people within the game, and all of them are kind of just along the same way. This team's built for next year, and I think that's what's getting lost in translation here is that, unfortunately, we want to be this year, right? As Tiger fans, we just want them to go and compete for the playoffs this year, but I think this team is always – the plan was always to really have that moment next year where you're fighting for the playoffs, and I think Candelario is still going to be a big part of that. I love Candy. I hope they don't trade him, and I don't know. It's been a tough year overall at the end of, after several tough years in a row. It's really difficult to be a Tigers fan for a lot of reasons. So it's one of the most emotionally draining things I think you could do with your life. So kudos to all of you who are Tigers fans.
I think I would put Lions fans right up there with that too. I mean, I think being a Lions fan is no, seriously, Lions fan is eating your soul. It's just no. And one of the things that I used to give Lions fans a lot of grief about it, but I honestly, as I get older, it's like, do whatever makes you happy. I just hate when fan bases compare themselves to each other, which I think is ridiculous. It doesn't matter. If you're from the state, like seriously, it doesn't. Well, I'm more loyal because if you're not a Lions fan because you're not rooting for them because they bad, too bad. Those Joe room on the bandwagon. Who cares? Seriously, who cares? You want to root for the Lions? Cool. If you don't, it's cool. Congratulations. I don't care. Just I get mad sometimes when it's just all this unnecessary excuse me, anger over it. So but yeah, as far as, and I think we talked about this numerous times, Trevor, I thought the Tigers were going to finish at least a few games under 500, but the way that the American League is right now, coming into the season, so many good teams. The AL East was just a beast, and the Twins, I thought the Twins would struggle a little bit, but they've been able to hang in there with the pitching rotation they have right now, which is still not a strength to this team.
Yeah, they've gotten some really good performances. They got Royce Lewis coming up and doing stuff immediately. Unfortunately, he's hurt now. We saw Miranda today, so they've gotten some nice hitting performances from their young guys, and the pitching may or may not hold up. Here's the thing: is things always come back to the middle at some point. So this Tigers team could get healthy and have an amazing run in the second half, and be what we thought they were going to be coming into this year. They absolutely could do that. It may not turn out to be a playoff team, but it seems like these teams always come back to the middle at some point. So Tigers dealing with a lot of injuries. which have been on the pitching side, and it's the hitting that's been struggling. But we don't need to talk about that too much. But but it's. I get the feeling that I don't know if you do, but I get the feeling that Twins rotation is not going to continue to hold out like this. I mean, I know that Joe Ryan wasn't given a ton of due credit for what he is. He's got a lot of really good data points for his fastball. I don't know a ton about Bailey Ober other than he's tall, but they're getting good performances from guys like that. Bailey Ober's like 6'10", I think. So that's like my main analysis point is that he's tall. That's how I got this. That's how I got this far in life. Just point out if guys are tall or not. But that's. You got to think that it's going to come back down to earth at some point.
Yeah, especially because Chase Paddock is out for the year with Tommy John?
Chris Paddock, and yes.
Chris Paddock. Chase Paddock. Chris Paddock. I'm bad with names this evening, but we were right now, if you're just tuning in, we're just watching the Mud Hens and the Columbus Clippers, who are the Cleveland Guardians affiliate, is 0-0 here in the bottom of the second inning. As Riley Greene got the only hit so far, I believe, for the Mud Hens. And he was a grounder right off the pitcher's mount, right over the pitcher, and he ran it out, so his foot looks absolutely fine. So again,
Valente got a single as well.
Oh, Valente Johnny, Mr. 300, by the way, John Valente. I mean, John Valente. We could definitely do a segment about him at some point because this guy goes out. He's hit at every level, and he hasn't been talked about too much. But again, is he an or guy or all that? That's another story for the day. But let's recap the week in Mud Hens baseball. As right now, like I said, we're watching the Mud Hens, but we want to talk about the series as they were on the road. And the thing, Trevor, I know you don't watch a lot of AAA, and a lot of times when we get clips, I watch at least one or two games the entire time just to keep up what's going on, because there is, with no games down in Lakeland, it's easy to kind of get in the habit of watching AAA. And they were down in Nashville, and they were able to tie the series 3-3 with the Sounds. That's the Milwaukee Brewers AAA affiliate. And as far as how Cody Clemens got here and the week he had leading up to it, in terms of standouts, I mean, Brendan Davis has had a really good week too, hit and playing in right field. There's also the signing of Thompson, who is the brother of Trace Thompson, who's the brother of Klay Thompson. I just drew a blank there for a second. I was thinking of his dad. Hey, Dan. Dan needs to join us. Greetings. By the way, yeah, so that was earlier in the week, and it looks like it's gone. Wow.
I mean, a good example of why I was talking about Tyler Alexander not being a bullpen arm. I think he gave up a single there and then a home run. I mean, that's kind of – I think it's great as a starter. I think he'll work as a starter opener or whatever. But, yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. No, you filled in the spot because I was just admiring that home run a little bit too long. But as far as offensive standouts for the week for Toledo, the week started kind of interesting because Matt Manning pitched on Tuesday and left the game after he hit his pinch count. But then there was a whole – do I want to say controversial, Trevor, here with what happened with Manning?
I would always go with controversial. It creates drama.
Yeah, and there was a little controversy. The fact that the whole situation is that he had a little more wrong with him than he let on than told the team essentially, and so he is now going to be on the IL for a little longer. And it was I believe it's shoulder tendonitis he's having to deal with. I believe. But
just when it looked like Mize and Manning were on the way back.
Yeah, Mize. I think Mize is going to throw. Yeah, Mize. I think is going to throw again this week. Maybe I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, that was interesting because it's just again you expect. Man, the last start was dehydration, I believe it was, and so this time
is this the weirdest rehab stint that you've ever seen in your entire life? I mean,
bicep. Yeah, it's bicep tendonitis. Thank you.
He comes out and has a solid rehab outing. His next one, he gets removed, and everybody's like, "Oh God, what happened?" He was dehydrated, and then he's like, "Okay, it's fine. We're gonna throw him out again." And it's like, is this the weirdest rehab stint in the world?
You know what, Trevor? I would probably think it is, but honestly, it is the strangest one I can remember because normally I wouldn't talk about rehab starts unless an injury happens or what have you. But yeah, that was a little bizarre, and it kind of caught Tiger team officials look like they caught him off guard. Like, what we're gonna do here? But and especially too, it was ironic that he had a bobblehead night in Erie last week. So yeah, what are you gonna do?
Oh man.
But in terms of let's get back to the bats a little bit. Down in AAA for the week. In terms of prospect wise, if there's anyone in particular we're going to talk about, let us know. And there was an arm that came up, and I saw this on, and it was a name that I forgot the Detroit signed in the offseason, and he's been making his first appearance for the Mud Hens this year. Well, yeah, he made his first. Yeah, I'm sorry. He was in Indianapolis just a few days ago, or excuse me, a few games ago. Now he's pitching for the Tigers, and that is one Sam Howard, who is a lefty. And yeah, he spent some time, I believe, in the majors as well. So I don't know if he was Rockies and Pirates, and so he's up there in AAA now. There's also Spitzbarth. Spitzbarth, thank you, Spitzbarth, who I did see last week in Erie pitch, over the top delivery, which is rare to see. So the Mud Hens getting some pitching reinforcements, but I don't know. There's any hitters that stood out to you this week outside of Cody Clemens down in AAA?
Riley Greene's doing pretty well in AAA. No, I think Cody Clemens is kind of the main guy that's been standing out. I mean, this is the reason, and I keep mentioning I don't watch AAA. Here's the reason why: is like we know what these guys are. A lot of them are the in between bubble guys from the majors. They're the vets that just become org depth, and every now and then you get some really good prospects there. But that's kind of why I stay away from it. So we know what a lot of these guys are already. So even in the big weeks, I'm like, okay, well, are we really gonna believe that Ryan Lavarnway, I don't know if he had a big week or not, but are we really going to believe that he's anything more than what he is? So it's that's kind of where I'm at with that. But I did see Garrett Hill had a decent day. I know we're talking about hitters, but
no, I'm actually bringing that. I was glad you bring that up because outside of the hitters, there's not much. But Garrett Hill, talk about Garrett Hill's performance a little bit, and it looks like he's still making adjustments in AAA right now.
Yeah, I think he is, and it is. AAA is good to see for these prospects like Garrett Hill, who gained a lot of ground because of the Arizona Fall League. I think he was good before that, but when I started to really pay attention was the Arizona Fall League. But I think guys like him, AAA is where more so where you're going to start to see what they are. I know that's usually said about AA. He killed AA. And some guys, I think when they are exposed to the AFL and some of that more advanced stuff, I think AAA is more of a standard for them and they can face some of these guys. So I think it is going to be an adjustment for him a little bit. I've always kind of been on the train that he's kind of an emergency depth kind of pitcher for a rotation, which as we see this year is very valuable. But he's been striking out a lot more guys than I anticipated. And I think there's something different that I haven't taken the time to really dig into what it is. But his strikeouts seem to be up. I mean, even in that last outing, I think he went 3 innings and gave up a couple runs, walked 3, and he struck out 4. So he's still getting those strikeouts at the AAA level. So I don't know. I think maybe I was surprised about Faedo. I've been wrong before, and I think maybe he could be the next guy you try if you don't want to try Wentz again, if you need another arm.
Well, I mean, the one of the things that I noticed about Hill this year is that he's going inside a lot more, and with his fastball, he's got a really good I want to say, for lack of a better description, a rising fastball that you can spot on top of the zone, and that's been able to work out for him. And I think he does a good job of changing eye levels between that and a pretty good curveball. But I think that's where it makes a difference. He's not afraid to go inside, and maybe that's a thing and there's something that we're talking to Erie Seawolves broadcaster Greg Egna about, that a lot of these pitchers are going by what the team is telling them to do, and Hill seems like he was able to go inside the zone without a problem, and a lot more swings and miss stuff too. And his stuff in AFL was good. And had there been a Rule 5 draft, he was eligible to get picked. I believe that, yeah, he was.
Although you wonder if the Tigers knew that there wasn't going to be one. So you think if they would have added him if they had known. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
no,
I mean,
that's
this
good.
was leading into the lockout. They kind of knew that it wasn't going to be the MLB portion, so they didn't have to. I mean, I know they protected Elvin, but I don't know because Hill. And not to cut you off, I'm so sorry.
That's okay, man.
But Hill does have the at least according to his numbers from last year, he has an above average IVB. It's up in the 18-19 area. He has a curveball with plus spin. So he has the stuff that the Tigers want. I have to imagine they would have kept him. Or they know that he's there. Like, they have an eye on him for these reasons. So, I mean, what you were saying, what you see, I mean, that data just kind of backs up what you're saying.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where, as far as does he have the longevity to do it, and finally this inning's over. Columbus scores 5 runs here off Tyler Alexander, and they go up 5-0 here, heading to the top of the third inning. But no,
rehab stats don't matter. Sorry, I'll die on that hill. Rehab stats do not matter. He gave up 12 runs in 2 innings, and it doesn't. I mean, you want him to pitch well, but like really, the rehab stuff is about them playing baseball again. It's not about if they can hit 60 home runs in 5 games or strike out 1 billion batters at a level they've already succeeded at. Just saying.
Yeah, you know, there will be somebody out there who will read the box score and go, Alexander's in trouble. He's going to struggle when he's way back. You know that. If you're a box score reader person and you're not watching the game, then I don't like the gatekeep, but it just kind of gets frustrating after a while.
Well, just listen to listen to what managers say after the rehab, the minor league managers, right? It's like I worked with the Mud Hens for a year. That was the year that Doug Mankiewicz was the Mankiewicz. I don't know why I said his name like that. Mankiewicz was the manager. We had a ton of rehab guys down there, and every time they wouldn't play well, and the Toledo Blade would say, "Hey, he didn't play well. What do you think?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, he was just getting back out there. The team wanted him to throw this many innings. He threw this many innings." Like, it's just,
yeah. But he got a little more saucy as the season went on. But another story for the other day about that. But let's go to Erie, because Erie is, you're right. A lot of the prospects are there. We talk about Carrie Carpenter quite a bit, and rightfully so. He's leading the Eastern League in a lot of different categories and just mashing the ball. And this week against Bowie, they won 4 games to 2 in the 6th game, including an offensive blowout on Thursday, 17-1 over the Bay Sox. And this was a game that we saw. Was it Dylan Rosa, 3 for 7, he had 7 at bats. Carrie Carpenter, 3 for 6. Quincy Neaport, 3 for 5. Meadows had a good game, 3 for 4. With a pair of RBIs. Gage Workman, 3 for 6. Vagato, 2 for 4. And we saw another strong start from Reese Olson. And Reese Olson, let's start there, because you and I are both fans of his work. And his command continues to get better. His innings are a lot more efficient, too. Well, it's one of the things that we noticed last week in Erie, where he had a immaculate inning, and Chris and I didn't even realize it. It happened so quick. And this is a guy coming into prior to May. We saw a lot of long innings from him, which why you saw the amount of pitches he was throwing where he wasn't having efficiency. Now it seems like he's in a rhythm and becoming more efficient.
Yeah, and you know what? He's sequencing so much better, and some of that has to do with the command. The command improvement is overall the most important thing, but he is using his arsenal so much better, as opposed to just going out there and throwing a bunch of fastballs and then maybe a breaking ball late in count. He's actually setting guys up, which I mean, it's really awesome to see. He's had big strikeout outings. He can use a slider, changeup, curveball. He'll use them in any sort of count, but he just does these things where he can land a 2 sliders and then go fastball up, or he can run a fastball inside and then go a changeup away. And then at that point, if you're 0-2, they swing at it, you can do whatever you want. I mean, it's just a matter of the fact that he is able to, because of the improved command, set hitters up. And I think that's what's been the biggest difference for me from last year or early this year to now, is that it seems like I don't want to call it thinking more on the mound, because I feel like he's always been there. He just hasn't been able to do it, but he's able to act on what is probably a great pitching mind, a great sequencing mind, be able to think through, okay, I just did this. What can I do? I got him out on his front foot now, so I blow him away with a fastball up and in. I'm going to get a strikeout. It's that kind of stuff. Or even if it's not a strikeout, he's setting guys up for weak contact. He's been phenomenal. And I don't like to use major words like that. Usually I'll just use fun if a guy's been good lately. Reese Olson has been phenomenal lately, and it's really fun to see.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who has a 4-pitch repertoire to him, and he's using all 4 pitches. And one of the things I noticed last year at West Michigan was sometimes he would have a hard time putting guys away because sometimes his other 2 pitches weren't working. But all 4 pitches have been sequencing, as you mentioned earlier, pretty well. And here's Riley Greene, by the way, so we're going to shut up for a moment and watch Riley Greene at bat here. First pitch in for a ball. Ball 1 here to Riley Greene, and this is something I get a chance to practice here. So here we got on the mound. Here's Riley Greene. Steps up to the plate.
Oh, we're gonna vomit through this. I can do
that. Words now. Just joking. Swing and a foul tip. Oh no, that's fair. And you got out there on a. I thought that looked like a foul for a moment, but good work there by the catcher to get him out. And now there's 2 down here in the top of the 3rd.
Well, he didn't get all of that one. Let me tell you, Raj. Oh, sorry. Are we still doing that?
Yeah. See on the replay, it does look like he thought he was. I thought that was foul, but either way, that was the correct.
Well,
call.
if it's his foot, he's running. So good.
Yeah. My apologies. It's 1 out, not 2 outs, folks. But nevertheless, no, it is. Oh, yeah, I was right. It was Lester and Greene were 2 outs. I'm not stupid. Okay. So anyway, but getting back to Reese Olson, though, it is. Every start has been much more of him just powering through. I was speaking about West Michigan last year, and Dan Hasty can attest to this too. I thought sometimes last year, and the few times before he got called up, I thought that he had a hard time finishing hitters with his other 2 pitches, but this year doesn't seem to be the case. And
absolutely not. Absolutely.
And does that improve? And then I was going to ask you, Trevor, does that improve him? Because I thought there was a little bit of reliever risk. Is that risk still there?
Probably. I mean, look, here's the thing. He's been great right now. If he keeps pitching like he's pitching, which is just unbelievably good, he's a starter. But I think there's still some stuff in the delivery. I think there's still the fact that he has more of a track record. Yeah. Yeah. And he has more of a track record of not doing this than he does doing this, right? And you don't want to believe that there's a regression coming, but again, just like teams who are winning and losing, something's going to find its way back to the middle. He's on an incredible hot streak right now, showing us what Reese Olson could be, which is great. You love to see it. I hope that this is the ceiling of Reese Olson, because if he pitches like this, then he's an effective pitcher in the major leagues. I don't care if it's reliever or starter, but in terms of command, when the command just shows up, and I think this has been more, you could argue it's been more of a gradual road to get here. But when the command kind of shows up in the way that it has for him, you have to imagine there's going to be a point where it goes away for a second too. So I don't want to jump in the camp of Reese Olson starter. Even though I've been standing there for about a year now, I've kind of never left it, but I don't want to just say he's a starter. There's no other option.
Your legs are sore from it, standing there.
Yeah. Right. I think that there's still some stuff that could point to him being a reliever. And that's really all I'm trying to say. He's been great. He's always been a fun pitcher. He's got data to back it up too, that his stuff is actually really, really good. It's just the command. And I hope the command sticks around. I just want to see what it looks like on a day when he doesn't have this great command he's had over the last few starts.
Yeah. And that's more than fair. I think that just the whole call him up situation where you're going to decide to put him in AAA. I still think he needs some more time in AA. And speaking of AA, speaking of Erie and getting called up, Wilmer Flores made his start. I believe it's his second start for the Seawolves. And that was a game that I watched where he kind of struggled, a lot of hard hit contact with him in the first couple innings, but he managed to escape the situations when he was there. His command, it wasn't that his command was off. I mean, he did have a pair of walks, but in terms of perhaps a sequencing thing, I'm not really sure, but he did punch out 7 in 4 and 1/3 innings pitched. And that's always good. But I think this start, Trevor, to me, shows that when things are down, he's not going to exactly just kind of gives him a ability to handle adversity. I think, by the way, Nick, to answer your question on YouTube, he asked, when do we see Carpenter in Toledo? Could be this week. I mean, Clemens got called up, so there still hasn't been a corresponding move as made as of yet. But anyway, just get back to Flores, though. I'm still encouraged by a start because it's not going to always be no hits or one hit and perfection. I thought he was being able to manage that okay.
I've been saying to anybody I could talk to that we just need to chill a little bit on Wilmer Flores. Just chill a little bit, just a little. I feel like whenever you ask me about a guy, I'm like, okay, guys, let's relax a little. I don't want to be that guy, but I don't know.
No, but Trevor, look.
Apparently, I'm a very pessimistic prospect lover, but
no. It's, you're logical. You're reasonable. That's why we're friends, and that's why it works, man. So,
but we do need to chill on Wilmer a little bit. Like he's been great. He's been awesome. He is a phenomenal pitcher. Like he really is an amazing pitcher when you watch him throw, and he's got great hair. And he was on Pitching Ninja for flipping his hair in a West Michigan game. Just saying. But I just. Here's the thing, and the people I'm saying need to chill are the ones who are like, we need him in Detroit. Let's get him in Detroit. He doesn't have a changeup yet. He's flashed the changeup, and the changeup looks okay when he throws it towards the bottom of the zone. Like it looks like it'll be a fine pitch. He doesn't have a changeup yet. It's there. He's living right now on what is a very good fastball and a very good curveball. And as we've seen with Brisky, if he's going to be a starter in the major leagues, he needs to find that changeup, if not something else. And the changeup looks like it could be the pitch. It's just when he's thrown it, when I've seen him throw it, if it is anywhere above the belt, it's flat. And if it's below the belt, it'll get some decent movement. It's just the feel for the changeup and the release point on the changeup, it's just not always there. And that's kind of my biggest thing with Flores right now. So to answer the question about Flores, he was 2020. So that was only the 5-round draft. So he was an undrafted free agent from that 5-round draft. I think he probably would have gone. I don't know if it was Detroit or not, but he probably would have gone at some point if it was a full draft. Sorry, question came across YouTube, but yeah, it's just finding that changeup or finding, maybe he gets I think he's also works on a cutter. I think is the other pitch he has, if I'm recalling correctly. But he's just got to find something else other than this great fastball and this great curveball. And of course, he still has the head whack in his delivery, the effort upon release. So I don't know. I like him a lot. I think he's a starter long term. Personally, I've been in that boat as well. He could be a reliever. Either way, I think he's going to be a good, productive major league player. I just think right now the hype is at a point where it's now surpassed what his ceiling might ever be. And so that's just got to come down a little bit.
No, I agree with you. And it's a cutter or slider too. I wasn't sure. People said slider. But regardless, curve your expectations a little bit, because it is good to see the Tigers be able to develop and see a guy like this. And it's the same thing with Brisky and Hill. These guys were late draft picks, and Detroit was able to find that. And credit to their Arizona scout over there who also found Brisky. So it's the same guy who found Flores also found Brisky, because Flores was pitching, I believe, for some community college or Central Arizona, whatever the case is. And so, but he is originally from Venezuela, and yeah, it's good. It's exciting to see, and I'm again, can't ask for anything else right now as far as that Seawolves rotation goes, which is probably one of their better rotations we've seen down there, and since probably the Matt Manning, Mize, Alex Fado days, and really even a guy like one guy I wanted to bring up to you and get your impressions on was Austin Bergner.
Kirby?
Oh, well, Chance Kirby's been pitching good, too.
Chance Kirby had a heck of a game this week, so I thought it was going to be Kirby.
Oh, no, but yeah, and that's where, I mean, Chance Kirby's kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, he's kind of stepped in this role recently. He was kind of pitching in and out of the bullpen last year, but the reason why I want to ask about Austin Bergner is because it seems like that's a pitcher who, to me, in my opinion at least, he was drafted in the 9th round in the 2019 draft, doesn't seem to be talked about as much as the other names in the system. He pitched twice this week. The first game went pretty good. He went 4 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, struck out 5. And the second game, 5 innings, and that was I believe that was yesterday. 5 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. But is there anything about Bergner you want to talk about a little bit? Because we haven't big, strong 6'5" righty.
His fastball again, and I keep harping on this, but this is not anything crazy or new. His fastball, it has plus spin. It has good IVB. He's got, I'm not. I think his I think he has a 4-seam and a 2-seam variant, or maybe just throws a 2-seam. It reads a 4-seam, but either way, it's got above average spin to it. It's got nice IVB, which would indicate 4-seam because the 2-seamers don't usually have that IVB. 2-seamers are low pitches if you think about it, because induced vertical break, you don't want the 2-seamer to ride up. You want it to move horizontally and even, downward a little bit because of if it's a sink or whatever. 4-seams are the ones you want to ride through the top. So he's got those kind of traits on his fastball, along with the breaking stuff. So that's kind of, again, this is what the Tigers want. This is how you get that pitching depth. Is one day next year, everybody in the world could get hurt again. All of a sudden, people are like, who is Austin Bergner and why is he wearing a Detroit Tigers uniform? And he comes out and does what Brisky's doing. I mean, it's that kind of thing, because he's got those, he's got similar traits and he can be taught to work in a similar way. It doesn't mean he's going to be there. I mean, I think Brisky's got a much higher ceiling, but it's just that kind of making people fall in line. This is why we don't know who any of the Dodgers are, but they, are successful against everybody. You may not know who they are, but they've been worked with like the Dodgers dev team works. So it's another one of those.
Yeah. And as far as, again, I'll take any type of development, period. I mean, it's going to take some time for the positional players, but to see the pitching kind of become this factory. And speaking of that leads us to West Michigan, and Dylan Smith had a good start this week, and they played one of the best teams in high A in Dayton, and Dayton's a pretty good squad. It's got a couple guys on their 40-man roster, I believe, too. And Chris Brown joins us. Chris Brown, welcome back.
Hey, oh man, I'm red. Sorry about that, guys.
Were you wearing sunglasses?
Not as fun.
Were you wearing sunglasses? I was just curious.
No, this is just my natural look.
That's not as fun as the lake. I don't know. Less windy.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day out here. I mean, we got up to like 86, and it was very windy, as you guys probably could hear. Sorry about that. I just put it right on my phone. So I don't know what I missed, other than maybe the Mud Hens or the Tigers should stop sending their pitchers to Toledo to the rehab appearances. It hasn't worked out so well.
Now, Trevor brought up a good point that we've never seen a rehab stint like we have seen with Matt Manning. We're just starting on West Michigan. We just finished up with Erie. And
I will put my sunglasses back on if I'm not.
Yes, Walter.
Walter, congratulations.
Congratulations. The podcast is downhill from there, so it's been great, guys. I'm going to duck out.
Yeah. In the YouTube chat, Walter, because obviously this is an audio medium, if you're not watching, said, I thought you were wearing a wrestling mask.
Yeah,
Chris
I
has
definitely
the
have
sunburn
the
tan lines.
Oh, man.
Hopefully that'll rub off in my sleep.
We're just starting at West Michigan as they play Dayton this week, and in terms of trying to get back closer to 500, they played Dayton pretty tough. But I was talking about some of the pitching down there, and Dylan Smith's start, which was pretty good. And overall, I was just going to add, like, in terms of there was a question that got in a mailbag that we're going to be putting out tomorrow on Ty Madden. And Chris, I want to start with you about Ty Madden in a little bit. I know he's been struggling a little bit, and just the question was, what about he's struggling? You have a long form answer, but for a quick answer for the podcast, what have you seen with Ty Madden that makes you kind of?
Yeah. So the question was specifically about, are we worried about the number of home runs he's given up? I think he's given up 8 home runs already. And somebody was pointing out that the record was since like 2005 was Alfred Gutierrez, I think that was, with 15. So he's already like halfway
that's
there.
A throwback name.
Right there. He made the majors. So
he did.
Did he?
I thought he did. Didn't I? I'm gonna look that up. I thought he did.
I know that the year I was there, he made it to Toledo for one outing that went, I think, less than an inning, and he got killed. I mean, there's no other way to put it. So I don't know, but that's a throwback name.
But no, so basically it was like, hey, is this something we need to worry about? And in general, I don't think we need to worry too much about minor league stats a lot. And I mean, that's kind of what we do. Everybody looks and we post the highlights and, hey, so-and-so's hitting 300 or he's not, his ERA is above 5. It's Ty Madden's first year in the pros, and he's learning how to pitch to pro batters, basically. And the main thing I pointed out was that he's learning how to pitch with new mechanics. We mentioned it from his very first start. The Tigers have lowered his arm angle. He used to be almost directly over the top with some serious spine tilt. And, they changed his mechanics, and it looked really good the first couple starts. He was still touching the upper 90s occasionally, and I think the only thing he did was give up the home run or two. And his velocity's been down over the last few outings. I think he's topping out around 95 now, and it hasn't been terribly clean ever since I think we went up and saw him, or you went up and saw him in Lansing, right, Raj?
Yeah.
And I just think, it's getting used to pitching every fifth or sixth day in pro ball, and getting used to throwing a lot of innings with the new arm slot, and just getting used to facing pro hitters. You can't make nearly as many mistakes as you can in college, and it's just something he's going to have to improve. But I use the examples of Alex Fido. Alex Fido got absolutely bombed when he made it up to AA, right? 15 home runs in 60 innings. It was like, oh my God, this isn't going to work. And since then, it's been like 1 home run per 9 innings. It's been completely average, including in the majors. So guys can figure that sort of thing out. Tarek Skubal, 35 home runs last year. He's got 2 this year. I don't want to jinx it, but there's just development keeps happening for the next several years. So I'm not too worried about Ty Madden's home run issues right now. Just something he's going to have to overcome.
Oh, I was thinking of
Skubal.
I was thinking of Virtual Vasquez, by the way, before I forget. That's what I was
Gotcha.
Oh, go ahead.
Speaking of Skubal, I before he even made the majors, I talked to him at PitchCon that's put on by Pitcher List. And I think I've told this story on this podcast before, but it's just very relevant where they said, hey, you're going to go out, you're going to work on your changeup. Or maybe he decided I'm going to work on my changeup, whatever. So he's out there, he's throwing changeups, boom, home run. Another changeup, boom, home run. And he's just he's giving up these tanks, looking around like, well, I guess this is the kind of day I'm going to have. And he just kept throwing the changeup. And when you're working on something, you're going to use it often because you want to find the feel. You want to mess with it, figure out what works, where you can throw it. Maybe what's not going to give up a home run. Who knows? But it's just that whole thing of these pitchers in the minors are working on something. I watched a start today. Not a Tigers guy. His name's Jackson Wolf. He's a 6'7" lefty in the Padres organization. And it was pretty clear he was working on elevated fastballs because I've watched him before and he does not elevate his fastball. And probably shouldn't. It's 89 to 91 for a fastball. But in this start that I was watching, he was living up in the zone. Anytime he wanted to put away, it was an elevated fastball. These guys are working on stuff. Admittedly, I haven't watched anything from Madden recently, but I'm sure that he's got something there he's working on. And maybe that's it could be why the velocity's down. Maybe there's something in his mechanics that they're like, we want you to really focus on this. And whatever the case may be, that could be what's giving him, making him give up a lot of home runs. So minor league stats, I mean, they matter for what we do. They also don't matter for what we do. It's just a whole thing. But the guys are working on stuff, and that's the important thing. So if he's giving up home runs, I don't think it's because he's a guy who just gives up home runs for fun. I think he's probably just working on something, and has been, and that's what's causing the slight difference from the dominant matting early in the year to the home run giving up matting of the last few starts.
And I think that comes with when I saw him in Lansing, for example. I told Chris too that I thought he was trying to work on his off speed instead of setting up his fastball. Excuse me, to be the first pitch. It was a lot of his slider. He was trying to work on his off speed to establish that, and his fastball he used from time to time, but it wasn't as frequent as it was in previous starts.
Yeah. So in general, it's like the guys over at MGO Blog, whenever they update the Michigan football roster, they say all weight gain is good and also all weight loss is good. Like if a guy gained a bunch of weight, let's just assume it's all muscle, and if he lost a bunch of weight, it was all fat. So basically, yeah, like the stats. If the stats are awesome, he's doing great. That's awesome. If the stats are bad, he's probably working on it. So, and both things can be true. So, yeah, I don't worry about it too much. Even like maybe once you get to AAA, you worry a little bit about the production, but even then, guys are still trying to figure things out. So.
I'd worry about it once it gets to the majors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but again, it was an issue for Skubal last year. This year, not an issue so far. So, like, the development doesn't stop once you get to the majors. That's for sure.
No, of course not.
So.
Of course not. It's not a straight line. Development is not a straight line. That's the old saying, the old cliche.
Yeah. Linear. People like to use the word linear.
Yes, linear.
Like, you used to always hear about relievers being fungible, which is the first time anybody used fungible before NFTs. But, I don't know. The West Michigan, I know you guys were talking about it, but You probably are touching on this, but that Dayton pitching staff is really good, even without. I think they moved Abbott out of there.
We did. Abbott's in AA now.
But Boyle has just been a monster this year, and they just got a bunch of really good arms. Connor Phillips, is he still there?
I believe he's still there. Yes.
So I know the West Michigan offense wasn't really bombing away, but they did have that one wild game that you got all the highlights from yesterday, Raj.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I wanted to. Oh, you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh no, sorry. Yeah. Froze there for a minute because I think we're balancing a lot on the internet this evening with the streaming, what have you. But oh, by the way, we got tagged on. Oh, that's cool. We got tagged on a Cam. I forgot about Cam Brown. Remember Cam Brown
from
the
CMU?
Tigers side? Yeah, he got mentioned in a tweet earlier. Sorry, I was.
He made his debut a couple nights ago.
Really, for Lakeland?
For Lakeland, yeah, through 2 innings. I think 2 scoreless innings, couple strikeouts, 1 hit.
Oh, I get to wait to see him then. That's pretty stoked about that. So, anyway, but yeah, last night's game was crazy. It was a big first inning, but let me take it away. Let me paint the picture here.
For the West Michigan outs. Here comes Colt Keith for the West Michigan Whitecaps.
Let's see here. Can you hear it, Chris?
I heard him.
Nearly 6,000 on
right.
hand here in West Michigan on a Sunday night. And Keith hits it high, deep to right field. Hendrick looks. This ball and this game is over and gone.
Daniel Hasty, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I like how he sets the silence.
Colt Keith on the first pitch he sees has his first walk-off home run in his professional career. Let's party in West Michigan.
Infamous words. Let's party in West Michigan.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That was a very cool moment, and Colt Keith is one of the most exciting hitters in the system. So to see it come from a guy like that's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So Hasty is on. By the way, he is doing Omaha AAA duty radio
tonight.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, I was like, no, I don't want him to get comfortable with him.
So walk-off home runs are good then. That's like those are ideal. We want those.
Yeah.
Well, as long as they're for the Tigers or their affiliates. Yes, I don't. Not a big fan of the other way.
I saw somebody. There was an open face view of that Colt Keith home run somewhere in the Twitter world.
Oh, nice.
And somebody was like, how did this guy make it to the 5th round and sign for that much, that little of money? The Tigers did well there.
Yes.
I mean, we talk about how good that draft is. The Tigers did really well with that pick specifically.
Yeah. Remember, Chris, I remember your reaction when they drafted him. You were kind of surprised. You were surprised because it didn't fit any type of profile they've ever done.
Yeah. And when it happened, we were like, okay, this, like at first we were like, this must be insurance for some reason, like insurance for Workman or something like that, right? Because Workman was supposed to go higher, went in 4th, and sure enough, they signed him for I think $500,000, and everybody I think it was an instance of the Tigers really doing their homework and knowing that he really didn't want to go to school, and other teams that had probably just kind of assumed so, or maybe checked in and like, oh, you take this, and so yeah, and. That's definitely looking good. I mean, he's a top 10 prospect in the system, and like I think earlier, I think he's the most promising hitter right now outside of Riley Greene, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely. And Will Vest is taking the mound here in Toledo, by the way, so he is back. Yeah, I believe he had.
I would debate you on that a little, Chris, just so you know.
Christian Santana.
Oh yeah, I guess. Yes, Christian Santana, absolutely. Isaac Pacheco too. I think we are all sleeping on Isaac Pacheco's hit tool.
How about Mango
I definitely was. I came to this year thinking that he couldn't hit.
Ooh,
it's the hands, man. I'm telling you, it's the hands. It's the same thing I love about Riley Greene, except Riley Greene's hands are much better than Isaac Pacheco's. Mm-hmm. But Pacheco has that. I don't know how to describe it, but he has it in his hands and his load where it's easier for him to stay back when he recognizes breaking ball than it is for the swing of Roberto Campos. I'm not a big Sequeira guy. I heard you say his name, Raj. So I'm going to say no to him being in that conversation, but still fairly promising. But yeah, but Colt Keith, absolutely. He's been so good. And yeah, he was a 2A prospect when the Tigers drafted him too. That's the thing. The Tigers are like, you're just going to hit. But I think that goes back to what Raj and I were talking about a little earlier before Chris got here. When we were talking about the Tigers hitting development, we're starting to see what the Tigers want out of their hitters, just like we're starting to see what they want out of their pitchers. And now we talk about the pitching depth. That's step one for the hitting depth. They get the kind of guys they want. You know, if I guess it's kind of like you can refine a guy with big spin rates. You can't teach the big spin rates. To a degree, you can refine the approach of a guy with big power, but you can't teach big power.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard tool to do. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was going to say, like, there are times when I think you might want to say that you can't refine guys with big power potential, because like it felt like that was the idea with like Ray Rivera. I was like, this dude's got 70 grade raw power, so let's go for it, and it just didn't work out there. Whereas like someone like Pacheco, I think the raw power is there for sure, but yeah, and he's definitely convinced me that there's more field to hit there than I expected, and because he struck out at like 35% clip in the GCL last year, and I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, but he's obviously put in the work, and he's not striking out as much. He's walking a fair amount. I every week, because I get tired of hearing about the should have drafted Marcelo Meyer. Every week I've been updating. I've got a little list of all the infielders that were taken in the top 50 last year. High school infielders were taken in the top 50. And then I threw in Manuel Sequeira and Santana in there just for Tigers fun. And Pacheco's been steadily like a 125, 130 WRC plus, which is great. I mean, Jordan Lawler is like 175, but what are you going to do? I mean, he went 6th overall. He got like the 4th biggest bonus. So, but Pacheco's been like a really good draft pick. And, we talked about it before. They probably don't get him, but they certainly wouldn't go Marcelo Meyer and Isaac Pacheco, back to back. But in any event, yeah. So I definitely think he's promising too. I think they've got a handful of really young guys who are looking good.
I think if the offense wasn't struggling this year, I think in terms of some of the Jackson Jobe things wouldn't be as amplified, at least in my opinion, at least. If the Tigers were over 500, no one would talk about how bad Jackson Jobe and do this Marcelo Meyer BS crap. Like, it's ridiculous. And every time there's a certain account out there who, I'm not going to say who, on Twitter, who just tries to be smug about as possible about their opinions and evaluations that Detroit has lacked in hitting. Yeah, well, no crap. I mean, sorry, no shit. Really? Of course. I mean, again, if I could go on name on one hand, I always do that. I don't want to keep revisiting how many times the Tigers have developed positional player talent. But look at what the pitching's been able to do. So, again, it's just there's no reason to rip out an 18-year-old kid. Well, that's, by the way, the clean inning there. But, no, it's for the Mud Hens. I just don't understand why you have to rip out an 18-year-old kid. It's just stupid. And I think if the Tigers weren't losing, I don't think it would be as amplified. I really believe that. People are just want to get mad and finding things to mad. It's like the chair smash. I
appreciate you protecting my identity there. I appreciate you not throwing me under the bus. No, but here's what we forget is Jackson Jobe was a shortstop in high school. And how many guys has Marcelo Meyer struck out this year? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's injured now for the second time this year, Marcelo Meyer, and Lawler's.
I think he just came back, Meyer, and he hit a double. Like Marcelo Meyer's good. Like, this is not. I think it was yesterday he came back and hit a double. Like, he's good. Like, we're not taking away from that. But Jackson Jobe is also really good.
Yeah, and I mean, we can get. I don't know if we're done in West Michigan or if you guys have been going. Did you go through Erie and Toledo already? All that good stuff.
So we're gonna head to Lakeland.
Yeah, I mean, Jackson Jobe had. Arguably, it wasn't like numbers-wise, wasn't his best outing in pro ball, but he had almost as many swings and misses in that outing as he's had in his first 6 outings, and 13 of them on the fastball. So I don't know if they worked on something or if it was just a fluke, but if they figured something out with his fastball, then look out, because I mean, that's kind of, I mean, he still needs to figure out how to throw strikes. Like you said, he was a shortstop. He's got such little experience, pitching against high level hitters and commanding his stuff that it's just going to take a little while, but stuff is already major league quality. That's the weird thing. I think I compared it to learning how to drive in a Dodge Viper. Like it's going to take you a little while to figure things out.
And you know what, your point with what did they do with the fastball? Obviously, we can't really watch Lakeland, so I don't know this for sure, but I'd be willing to put a small amount of money down because I don't have that much anyway. That it's just that he's learning how to pitch, right? These are going to be the incremental improvements that you see where all of a sudden his fastball with no tangible changes gets better because he's learning to throw it a different way to a certain guy. He sees a guy, with a closed stance. Maybe you bust him a little inside or somebody's way open. You can see that the outside might be open. Try to get it, to that area, or you just threw him your nasty slider low and away. Maybe that opens him up because he's looking for the slider again. Because if you're not expecting that slider, you probably can't touch it. So that opens him up for your 95-mile-an-hour fastball up and in, right? Like it's just being able to see those things on the mound and understand what you're doing. So I would almost bet money that it's just learning how to pitch. Like we were saying since his first outing, like it's going to happen. He just has to get out there. And I think that's kind of probably what is more going on than any sort of tangible change to the fastball quite yet.
That was a wild throw there in the Columbus game as actual reaches up to first, but that throw was insane. But by the way, if everybody's watching the YouTube channel, let us know what you think about us watching minor league baseball and talking baseball, because obviously we can't do this with the major league games because we get copyrighted to death by YouTube. But if you like this format going forward, let us know, because we used to on the Tiger minor league or on Woodward Tigers would watch the minor league games as we're broadcasting. So if you guys like it and want us to continue to do it, let us know. We appreciate that. So the other picture I want to talk about with both of you guys is, and this is kind of ironic because here we are in his home college town is Garrett Burhen, yes, who started off the week 5 innings, 4 runs on 3 hits, struck out 10, and allowed 3 home runs. But he seems like he's been pitching pretty overall. He's still having a pretty good year down in Lakeland.
And I want to say that Trevor he watched his start like a month ago against Bradenton, right?
Bradenton, yeah, I did. And it's kind of the same thing that I would tell you about Brant Herter, is that he is a big time college. He came from the Big Ten, I believe, in Ohio State, but it's a matter of I think he's too good for low A. He still has some fun stuff. I believe he was 95 with his fastball, and then with a nice slider that he was using in that start against Bradenton. So I think the stuff is, and the command and pitch ability is all just too much for that level, but he's still really fun. And it's, I know that for some guys, I will completely not care about age versus level and experience versus level and all that stuff. I don't know that he has that biggest stuff for me to get there. I was defending a 24-year-old in single A at one point this year because he has the stuff to be defended. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't know that Burhen has that level stuff, but I think Burhen will be good there. I think he'll be, fairly dominant in high A even. I think that double A is where things. What? I'm just thinking about this now. Maybe almost a Garrett Hill kind of track where he does okay, maybe a future AFL guy, and then he'll come back and kind of be really good and fill a Garrett Hill kind of role in my mind is almost where I'm seeing him now that I think about it. Not necessarily a direct comp, but just more of a path and role kind of deal. Also, it's one start. Maybe I'm completely wrong because you can't make these decisions off of one start. Fun fact.
No, in general, you're absolutely right. Like both he and Herter are just way too good for a bunch of 18 and 19-year-old, Latin kids who haven't faced, 23-year-old much. So, but it's, on the whole, it's better to see them perform and execute in that manner. And eventually they'll move up. It's just kind of the, the way
where do they go?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the, we get so often, and I'm sure you guys already talked about Carrie Carpenter and Cody Clemens, probably even about all the call them up and move them up and all that stuff. And that there has to be a spot for these guys. They're not just going to start cutting guys. I mean, they might eventually, but they're not going to cut guys that they still think are helpful just to make room for a guy who needs a proper challenge. So they'll come up with something else for him to do. They'll you only throw changeups in this outing and see how it works.
Only throw at guys in this outing and see what happens.
Yeah. I want to see your right hook. I did want to bring up one thing. I don't know if we're done with Herter there, but we always kind of forget about Wilkel Hernandez because he's down in low A and he's been around the system for a long time. Got hurt, but he had a ridiculous outing the other day. I think 4 innings and 9 strikeouts, 2 hits, no earned runs.
Wow.
And I'm looking at his Savant thing right here. So yeah, touched 97 with his fastball, 97.3 with a sinker, average 95 with 2,400.
Which we saw a little bit of that before he got injured, right? I mean, remember I remember that.
So I'm just looking 7 swings and misses with the sinker, 4 with the curve, 1 with the slider, 3 with the 4-seamer. So 15 whiffs and 64 pitches.
What does it have as fastball spin and vertical?
So the 4-seam average is 24.04, max out at 25.27, and the sinker is pretty much the same, 24.31, max out at 2,600. I don't know if you want that much spin on your sinker, but whatever. Curve up to 2,800, average 2,600. So I don't know, like.
So keep in mind that you're farther away from spring training, so those numbers are not I wouldn't go to bat with those numbers, but 2,500 is a really good place for his 4-seam to be at.
We got Riley Greene up right now, don't we? I recognize that batting stance.
Yeah, that's I know that guy. That's where Jackson Job's fastball is at too. Is around 2,500. Just a fun fact, and then obviously the curveball's got the 2,800, and I always liked that curveball too. From Wilkel before he got hurt. So
me too.
I'm ready to get hurt again by Wilkel.
Well, yeah, I mean, me too. It's a good arm, right? So even if it doesn't work out as a starter, it probably won't because most guys don't. But he's 23. He's up to 97. He's struck out 9 dudes in a couple innings. I think maybe a future reliever. You just keep him in mind. That's all I'm saying. He had a good outing, so you will mention it. And if he goes out and gets bombed in the next start, we just won't bring it up.
So Riley Greene is yet to hit the ball out of the infield. I think we just decide that he's done and cut him. Is that what we're doing?
Well, I think he's hitting a lot of grounders. He hit a lot of ground balls in Lakeland as well, I believe. So he's just getting his swing back.
Yeah. It's almost like he needs to see pitches to hit line drives.
It's crazy.
Oh man, I want to see the box score warriors tomorrow say something about this. Oh, that he ball in the infield.
Just tell him that the single was a smoked 110 mile an hour line drive to the center field rather than a little bouncer up the middle.
That's
It showed that his foot was just fine though.
It does. All of us has. He's been running hard down the line in all of these. So it looks like his foot's doing okay. I think that's mostly what he wants to show the Tigers. Hey, my foot's fine. Get me to the majors. Let me join Spencer Torkelson, who is apparently not done.
He had looked like he had a really good game today. I was I don't know if you guys know this, but I was out in a boat.
So weird. I was on Twitter and I would have sworn that he retired or just quit the game because his career was over.
No, and he had 3 hits today. The third hit, I will say, I'll be honest, the scorekeeper was a little generous on that third hit, but as always, it seems to be the case. But nevertheless, no, he had really good contact and he barreled up that double. He smoked the double, and I believe it was the left center gap. So
109 miles an hour on the double.
Yeah, but of course, he's too selective and his OPS is too high, and we're gonna bitch about that. Good Lord. But Lakeland had an interesting week because they played in 2 7-inning doubleheader, both games, and they had 1 hit. So there were no hit the second game, as Pacheco got the only hit. And that was the same start that Chris was talking about with Hernandez was pitching. But yeah, that was the only hit was by Pacheco. And so in the second game, nothing. There's just a lot. It was actually, but you know what though, Chris? I mean, I'll maybe this is encouraging, and I don't want to try to sound like I'm being too optimistic, but 7 strikeouts. not bad considering that this is a team that it fits that, they do strike out quite a bit.
Well, that was the one thing I noticed about Segura over the last month. I think he started to strike out again a little bit more, but he was kind of a windmill last year in April, and he still isn't walking, but he cut his strikeout rate in like half in May. So it was like, all right, well, if you're going to make a ton of contact, then that's a step in the right direction, I guess, if you're not missing at least. But yeah, he's going to need to walk eventually, or else this is not really going to go. But
yeah, and the next day he had a home run. Went 2 for 4 with a couple RBIs, and Campos as well was 2 for 4 in the 8-4 victory as they broke out the schneid a little bit and got the offense going. And one other pitcher I wanted to ask you guys about that seems to have been having a good last couple of weeks before we highlight anybody else and get out of here is Aaron Haas.
Nice.
Haas has been really good out of the bullpen. 29 strikeouts in over 19 innings of work.
He's got that 3,000 RPM slider that he's working with. Like that is a Jackson Jobe spin rate type slider that he's working with. He's doesn't have the rest of the stuff Jackson Jobe has. That's the difference. But he's got that big slider. I mean, he looks like he could be a solid bullpen arm overall, really.
Yeah, and it's kind of the reliever version of what we talked about those other dudes. Like this guy knows how to pitch. He knows how to use his stuff. It's a fastball. It's like 93, 94. But like Trevor said, that slider is legit. We saw him. We highlighted him back in spring training against the Yankees. We got to see that a little bit. And, so he's doing his thing down there. Like, again, it's like, it's a little bit easier to move relievers around. So it wouldn't shock me if he comes up at some point. But they're
again, the big stuff. I'm sorry. Keep going. I keep cutting you off.
No, go ahead. I was just saying they're kind of letting him do his thing down there. And then when they need an arm, it wouldn't shock me at all if he's coming up.
Yeah, sorry. I don't mean to keep doing that. It just keeps happening. But the 3,000 RPM breaking ball is great, but not everybody can throw it. Do you know who else has one that's 3,000 RPM? Kiter Montero.
Yep.
That's where the command comes in. When you think about a guy like Kiter versus Haas or Jobe or whatever, that's where the command comes in.
Gio Arrieta also has a pretty good one too.
Yes, pretty good spin. Yeah.
So they have a ton of guys like that. And then think about it, the hitters. When we're talking, not that many strikeouts in a no-hitter. That's the hitting version of what they want. If they want that big power potential, more than often than not, it's going to come with swing and miss or high strikeout rates. And if they want big spin stuff and just big stuff in general, more than often than not, that's going to come with not as much command. So this is where you start to see what the development team can do with that kind of stuff on both sides of it.
Oh, absolutely. Is there anybody else you guys want to mention before we get out of here with Lakeland as the Angel de Jesus takes over the mound for the Mud Hens here in the bottom of the fifth?
Well, Carlos Marcano came back from the injured list. I think we mentioned him. I only like to talk about him because he's so very, very young, like 18-year-old. He might still be 18. I'm not sure, but just kind of fun to see him down there pitching.
I like RJ Pettit down there. I know he pitched high. He's pitched higher than low A, but he's 6'8". Also a tall guy. That's my analysis. Just like with Bailey Ober, he's tall. What are you going to do?
We saw him pitch, or at least I've seen him pitch, I think twice this year. And it wasn't the velocity I was expecting. When they drafted him, we saw the video of him hitting like 98 or whatever in a lab setting, but it's really like 91, 94 on the mound. And, I don't know. But again,
he's got some stuff. I kind of enjoy him. I just saw he had a nice outing in relief in Lakeland. Thought I'd throw his name out there.
Yeah.
It's going to be Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know if there are any other bats worth highlighting last week.
Nah, I don't. I was going to say I didn't think so. And what's going to be nice about going to Lakeland this week is there's going to be a lot of bullpen arms. Like last year, there was a new strike zone, the new automated strike zone, so a lot of things were going on. It was the first week of the season, and Detroit did not have a lot of bullpen arms. I mean, we saw Carlos Guzman and a lot of names. But this year, and this is before even Flores Flores didn't start until a month after, I think almost to late June, or middle of June, or I want to say, or something like that effect. So Lakeland didn't have an interesting pitching staff until Flores arrived. Let's face it here, but there'll be a lot of good arms to look at, and there'll be plenty of video. If I think Jackson Jobe will be pitching Friday, Chris. So
nice.
Trevor will be getting some live video.
So that's good. That's good. I look forward to it. I hope I can make it out. I was gonna try to meet you guys out
Temperature
there, but
rock
we had like 10 snow days for my work. So my last day of work is actually Friday. So can't quite do it.
Nice.
I will just want to mention that we are 1 week away from the start of Complex Bell. The Florida Complex League starts June 6th. I don't know if the Dominican League is the same day or not, but yeah, so it's kind of interesting because there are not a ton of Tigers that I really want to see that I can think of right now, but I'm sure a couple will pop up. But there's still, we want to see Rainer Castillo pitch, right? And
yes.
then
Selfish reasons. Yes.
Abel Bastidas, I assume was he was the other kind of other than Christian Santana, the other kind of big shortstop or infielder they got. So I want to see what he can do. And other than that, I don't know, just have some fun watching Iverson Leonardo again.
It's got a sweet name. It's another sweet name too. But, all right, awesome. Well, happy Memorial Day for everybody. Thank you for all who have served out there. Thank you for everybody on YouTube with the questions and comments today. I really appreciate it. Shout out to Nick, Walter, Jeremy. I want to say Squirrel, SKVIR.
Squirrel.
Squirrel. I'll just call him Squirrel. Screw it. Bloodright was the questions earlier. Christopher, Sean, Capel, KPA, crap. Yeah, Capel. Yeah, thanks for everybody who participated on the YouTube chat tonight. And you can find the YouTube episode at Tiger Minor Report. Search for that on YouTube. And we'll be answering the mailbag questions. That will be an article that will come out tomorrow. And we'll be back next week. If anybody listens to Woodward Tigers, we'll be on Thursday. I'll be live from Lakeland. And Chris will be holding the fort down doing production with Uper. So, again, we all appreciate Jeremy, you rock, for participating and listening. Thank you. And Trevor, thank you for coming on, giving me a 10 minutes notice. And you are a scholar among men.
Yeah. Thank you for being able to more than capably fill the air here while I was irresponsibly sitting on the back of a boat.
No, I say you were responsibly having fun. That's what you were doing.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. Either way, always happy to do it whenever.
Awesome. So we'll see you guys next week, and there will be some video. Like I said, thank you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tiger Minor Report, and our Patreon, Tiger Minor Report. Things cost money. Lakeland I had to save for. Please give us a few bucks. I sound like I'm begging, but I'm not. Correction, I sort of am. But anyway, all the stuff we use, all the money that we get goes back into the website, whether it's us getting video, gas, traveling, all that stuff. We're going to be hitting West Michigan a couple of times here in June. We're due for that. We're due to go to Toledo again. Yeah, but, I know Chris and I have talked about Toledo privately about that. But, yeah, we were in Erie last week. And, again, great time. Good job by the Seawolves hosting us. And so, but yeah, I'll be in Lakeland this week, and we'll talk to you next week. And I'm having a hard time ending the podcast, and we'll talk to you later.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
I know.